Everybody, I'm in Rome. I live in Rome, just next to the coast, and I've lived here for 2 years. But as you mentioned, Jamie, I have my roots in the West Country. I grew up in North Devon, moved out from my parents' place when I was 19 to Bristol, lived there for 10 years, and then decided I'd had enough of the bad weather. So up to Italy a couple of years ago, and that's where I am now. So echoing what Nicholas was saying, it is an honour to work with John and the team, particularly on a personal note, to maintain that relationship with the West Country and stay close to what's going on there. And having worked with them for 2 years, seeing the change in the last 2 years, it is incredible stuff that they're doing. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about SEO, the fundamentals, going back to basics, understanding it at its root, and then a little bit about where I believe people should be focusing their efforts when it comes to SEO. And I emphasize the I believe because there is no correct or wrong answer to what should and shouldn't be done in terms of the future of SEO. Google and the other search engines don't tell you what they're doing. They want you to work it out because otherwise it would be anti-competitive. And then I'll give some tips that any business can apply to their digital approach, and that small, large, everybody in between that can hopefully give them the edge over competitors, but may even give them the edge over the big corporations. So let me start sharing my screen. Okay, and that should be with you now. Okay, so I'm going to start here at the very basics. SEO is the process of improving the quality and quantity of website traffic to a website or a web page from search engines. SEO starts from targets unpaid traffic rather than direct or paid traffic. Unpaid traffic being things that come for free to the site, paid traffic being ads and other paid activity. And direct traffic being traffic that comes to your site by people using bookmarks or people typing in the URL of your website directly. So SEO, when it's in place and it's doing what it should be doing, when your site is search engine optimized, it means that you're going to be generating free traffic. You're not paying anything for those hits to your site. Of course, that doesn't include any investment you've made up to that point, but you're not paying anything ongoing. So why is SEO important? SEO means that if your site is SEO'd, it means it's going to be more likely to appear in search results when customers are looking for goods and services. In my experience, having worked in digital marketing professionally now for 12 years, and prior to that, growing up using digital platforms from the age of 11 to 19, I'm going to say unprofessionally, I've seen more sites that are not search engine optimized than I have those that are. So websites that are search optimized will stand out next to competitors online. Search engine referred visits are often the largest source of traffic. So SEOing your site will also mean that you stay on top of that, and it will also grow, which then leads to more business, more inquiries, and whatever is of value to your business. And compared to paid traffic, again, in my experience, compared to spending money on ads or other sources of paid traffic to your site, SEO can be the most valuable because it brings permanent, long-lasting benefits. The work we've been doing at Visit Somerset for the last couple of years has meant that traffic has grown in certain segments, and those benefits will be felt here on after, as opposed to an ad campaign, which is felt only in the moment. So I just want to include this as a side note on the basis that when we talk about SEO, we shouldn't forget that there are other search engines, but for the purpose of small and medium businesses in particular, the focus of SEO efforts should always be aligned to Google and what Google dictates. Google is the biggest search engine in the UK. As of June 2021, it was accounting for nearly 88% of all searches. You can see on the chart there that Bing and Yahoo shortly after, and DuckDuckGo with a very small minority of users. Google is the world trendsetter for how SEO is handled, managed, how it's deployed by people like me. So following their recommendations will put a site in good standing with other search engines. Generally, what you do on Google will also therefore filter through to Bing, Yahoo, and the others. And Google has a suite of tools which are available for any business to use completely free of charge, which again, many businesses aren't using, either due to the fact they're not aware that they exist or because they're not sure how to set them up. But I'll mention some of them in a moment. I have a series of tips that any business can apply. And there's a huge resource online, a free resource from Google, as well as on YouTube from other professionals like myself that can help you deploy these completely free of charge. And as I say, if you do all of the things that I'm about to go through, you will certainly improve your SEO on your site. And that would bring us round to talking about this. If your businesses help yourselves, and that helps Visit Somerset helps your businesses. SEO is a big part of that, because the more traffic to your site, the more traffic to Visit Somerset, and it becomes a propagating, self-fulfilling cycle. A couple of other key points before I jump into the tips. SEO is constantly changing the approaches to SEO. So many years ago, there was a huge focus on adding a ton of links to your site to build up a network with other websites. There is still value in doing that, but they must be relevant. And that leads into the big thing that has been the focus of SEO for recent years, which is whether your site offers a positive user experience. And that could be any number of things. A good example would be if your site has got links on there that are broken, that don't work, that send people to an invalid location. That's a poor user experience, which Google will pick up on and in extreme circumstances will penalize a site. But if you fix those links, or you remove them, or you improve the user experience generally, that will lead to an improvement in your SEO. Google is constantly updating its algorithm. So one tip that I've got in a second is to stay on top of that by setting up a news alert. And again, you may not know the full ins and outs, but being aware of even the fact that something has changed will mean that you'll then be aware of any recommendations that flow from that you can make and implement on your site. So the question to ask yourself is, does your website offer a positive user experience? Okay, so I'll talk through these 10 tips, but I'll leave them up on the screen for people to take notes if they're so inclined. So here, the first tip: install Google Search Console on your website to manage and monitor its presence. Search Console is a free platform. All the platforms that I mentioned through this are completely free from Google. And what that allows you to do is go into greater detail on the traffic that's coming through to your site from Google Search. And it will also flag for you any problem areas of your website that you can then refer on to your technical team, web developer, agency, etc., to get these things addressed and again, improve your SEO overall. Second tip I mentioned just now: set up a news alert to be notified of Google's search engine algorithm changes. You can do that again for free through Google News Alerts. Install Google Analytics. More people have this than don't, but not many people use Google Analytics, but even having it installed will make a difference in terms of being able to understand and measure your site's engagement. And if you see that people are coming to your site but then not spending very long on there, then you know you've got a problem. And if you address that problem, that will improve your SEO. Complete all of your website's meta information, titles and descriptions on all pages. So these are the little titles and descriptions that tell Google what the page is about, and completing those again can make a difference. And it also helps the user understand when they find you online. Ensure your site adheres to the latest data and privacy protection rules. I've kept that deliberately vague in the sense of not directly GDPR compliant, subject to what the UK government decides is its approach to data management, but consider the markets that you trade in. If you are available to clients or businesses or customers in the European Union, then your site must be GDPR compliant if you want people booking or purchasing from the EU. And likewise from the United States has its own set of data protection rules. And then other markets generally don't have the same levels of legislation, but ensuring that you meet the latest data and privacy protection rules for your markets, Google will recognize, and it all ties back to providing a positive user experience. Ensure your site is technically optimized, that it's loading as fast as possible. That can be answered pretty quickly by speaking to whoever manages your site. Keep the content on your site original, up to date, and relevant. A lot of people are victims, and unfortunately, I'm a victim of this myself, that I don't keep my own website up to date. Everybody's their own worst client. But try to check monthly if your site, all the information is correct, contact information, all that kind of key stuff that people are looking for. Because again, if people are finding information that's incorrect or invalid, Google can pick up on that and it can result in your site being pushed down search rankings. Ensure that you have an SSL security certificate active on the site. There was a time when these were only really required if there was sensitive information being processed, but now it's becoming more and more of a requirement, and even on certain browsers you'll begin to see now warnings if there's not a security certificate on your website that it's insecure, and this is proven to deter people from venturing further. And again, Google will recognize that people aren't going further into your site and will push you down the rankings in favor of a competitor where people are engaging because there is a security certificate in place. And ensure the software on your site is up to date. I work a lot with WordPress, but a lot of the content management systems all have software running in the background that needs to be kept up to date and secure. And the final one, particularly relevant to all businesses, regardless of the size, is list your business with Google My Business. If you have a Google My Business listing and are not currently the owner or manager of that, do try to take control of that. There's a simple form to do that on Google where you can add all the relevant information for your business and then answer any questions that come through on Google. And the more engagement you get through that platform, that will absolutely give you a boost in search results. So I feel like I rattled through that pretty quickly, but happy to take any questions that anybody might have now, but likewise, write them down, pass them to John and the team, and I can get back to you via email, phone. Happy to make the call from Italy if anybody's got something a bit more in depth that they would like to chat about.